Welcome to Acton in Focus. I'm Vivian Kopsinger-Birchall, your host, and my special guest is Mr. Todd Boothroyd. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you very much for having me.
So before we dig into it, I'd like to invite you, Todd, to tell us about yourself, who you are, what you do.
Okay. For me, please redirect, because the way I've lived my life is I've never taken a solid course of action. I tend to wander as to how I want to have fun in life while living and also making a living wage. So for example, I started out actually in telecommunications, in the film and TV industry and writing. And I used to write for Bob Dorian and Nick Clooney, who was George Clooney's father. And then after that, I just kind of segued into other things, and including being a professional scuba diver. Right now, among my other work, I'm an author, and then I also have a artist business, which is, I think, in part why you wanted to bring me in here.
Absolutely. I mean, you have quite a wide range of experience, but before we get into the art, I'm a little curious about your interest in the arts generally. How did that start? You've talked about different things that you've written, I mean, that you're doing, you're a writer, and I also read somewhere that you're a fan of language. So as you were describing that, how many languages can you speak?
How many languages can I speak fluently? So my spouse and I, my spouse is in Slovakia, and so we speak German and Slovak on a daily basis. My first secondary language in school was French, and I studied that for 6 years, and to the point where I was dreaming it. And then along the way, whenever I travel, I try to speak in the local culture, which includes when I land in a place like Mexico, that I will sit in front with the taxi drivers and pepper them with questions in Spanish. So it's just a love of connecting people at the language level. For the artistry, it's been I've been heavily influenced by, in particular, my mother, but also prior generations. We were from a working class farm family, where on weekends they would sit around playing musical instruments and telling stories, and so that's part of the storytelling aspect about it. But my great-grandfather was also a wood builder, primarily boxes for an apple orchard during the daytime, but on the weekends he'd build beautiful sailing vessels out of wood. So just a lot of that's been passed down culturally into my family. But I've always been amazed. My mother, we didn't have much in the 70s, but she would just say, okay, well, we're going to make this today. And we would go and we'd make it.
And again, we'll get into the woodwork very, very shortly, but just to tag on to your past, I don't know that I know you still write, you're an author, but I was looking at some of the work you've done, and one of them that struck me was the Amo Damp.
Right.
Which really it digs into the history of New England. Two questions to that. One, where exactly do you live? How long have you lived here? And two, how did that influence the story, the writing, which was also your dad was part of and your brother? The other.
So the Amo Dump, taking of history, it's the story of families that lived in Maynard, Stowe, Hudson, and Sudbury, who lost their property during World War II, eminent domain, to make an ammunition depot. And they never got the property back. But the book is about that story. I grew up just outside the area which is called the Amo Dump. It's now known as the National Wildlife Refuge for the Assabet Valley. And we grew up right on the border of that, and we watched paratroopers from our house dropping into this area for military exercises. But there was always a fence that we weren't supposed to go over. And so everybody was wondering, what was going on beyond that. And the story of these people had been lost. So growing up in Maynard, we knew the people. I went to school with the grandchildren of those who lost their properties. And so we wanted to write the history book so that was not lost. The surprise part about that is the wildlife refuge is open now, and people can go walking through it. And so they see these huge bunkers, and they don't know what the history is. So we found a secondary audience in people just trying to understand what they're seeing in front of them.
Right. Now that is very, very rich history, and also the fact that we have people like you who are bringing it to our attention. That's amazing. But you have consistently talked about your family, the influence of your family. So let's get to the woodwork. How has what has been that journey for you as Todd in terms of getting into woodwork, and how was it influenced by your dad?
So with as I had mentioned, my great grandfather, but also my grandfather, when even a kid, we built bird houses, and you could just build a plain bird house. But then, as I was building bird houses as gifts to other people, I would start saying, how can I customize this for them? And so I started personalizing, or what would say bespoke, which is making something very specifically for somebody. And so I think is it this board here? So this board here is a dive shop up in New Hampshire. And there's a dog there that always greets everybody. And on all of their social media campaigns, they were saying, come into the dive shop and get a free hug from Louie. And so for the dive shop, I was like, let's make this gentleman a gift. And it's a sign out the door saying free hugs from Louie. And so that's kind of the bespoke nature of it. But it was all influenced by my family members. I have artists, musicians, quilters. By artists, I mean painters and stitching and knowing. So it's an actual whole family effort. So while in case anybody doesn't know, we met at a fair show. So quite often, a lot of the fair shows there will be a table right next to me, and that's my niece. So it's not just me and the family. So we're always talking about the stuff and trading ideas, and in some part, playfully trying to one-up each other. Say, look what I made.
That's so cute and lovely to see families working together. Let's get into the specifics of this. How much work gets into creating any of these pieces? And we have quite a variety of pieces here on display. We have little bowls. We have, describe what they are, or some of what this is. And, yeah.
Okay. So the Christmas ornaments are what I'm really focusing on right now with the upcoming holidays coming in. And so the actual technical process on that is these are beautiful glass bulbs that I get originally. I don't make the bulbs myself, but they're painted and they have all various colors. And on this particular medium, I will laser out the existing color and then repaint back in. So I spend a lot of my nights just playing around with designs and doing something that I know one will be liked in the local area, but I'm also making ornaments for my friends and family and anybody who does something nice for me. I'll do something nice for them, but I'll also bring them to shows and do that. When it comes to the woods, that's also, I'll have a gift item to somebody else, or somebody will actually have handed me something and say, what can you do with this? And then I'll come up with it and develop something and hand it back to them.
And then what are some of the most popular pieces since you started doing this kind of work? What do people appreciate the most?
So it was for a family member because of the cost point provided, and now I'll fill it back in. I actually made two of my family members a 8x4 benches for their homes out of cedar. And I could not bring it in here today. And plus it's at the
slacker.
house.
I'm joking.
But on the cedar is beautiful once it's polished down and polyurethaned. But then on the back boards of the cedar, as well as on the seats, I carved in language motifs into it, which are with languages of blessing symbols in there. One was in Gaelic, the other one was in Nordic, and so that was a beautiful piece. So that was probably the biggest wow factor that I've ever had somebody. But at a show for these big boards here, I have one, and I don't have the piece anymore, and I tend to do one-offs. So I don't do mass printings of the same, and I use print loosely. It's not really a print, it's kind of a mixture of carving and everything else. I had two fairies under a mushroom, and they were hanging there, and they had a little breakfast platter in front of them, and they were dozing and hammocks. And I have a lot of seafaring type of things here. So this was kind of a one-off away from that. And I just liked the way when these two ladies bought the piece from me, that their eyes lit up and they say, we just love it. And I'm like, I love that you love it.
Right. A couple of follow-up questions. First of all, your work is amazing, and I was drawn to it when we met at the fair. One, how much time does it take for a piece like, I'll try to use this cutting board as an example, but you also talked about a bench, just to give us some values, some ranges.
So that bench took 4 weeks.
Okay.
To make, between cutting up all the pieces, all the sanding, all putting it together, all of the markings, carving, and then all the polyurethaning and et cetera to preserve it against nature. So even this board, this board took a bit of time because it came in a beast stock. And what the viewers at home don't realize is this is a very heavy, tightly grained piece of wood. It's actually quite heavy because we want it for a cutting board to be solid. When it's cut into it, the backside is flat. But there was the shaping of it itself, which probably took an hour. And then there's the prepping it for actually working on it. And then this was also laser engraved. Then there's the working on the design of it. And when you're working with a laser or anything like that, quite often you have two of these pieces of artwork. One is you have a sample board that you essentially destroy in the process as you're trying out, how am I going to do this? And then you get the finished piece, which is after you've done a practice run, you'll do the final piece on it. So it can take quite some time.
And so I've also noticed that one of the key components of your work is engraving.
Yes, well, that's what I've been doing a lot on the past year.
And how much, what goes into engraving for different material? For example, you have, things like the ornaments, and you have the wood, and then I see stones or stone carvings.
So that's a fantastic question, because there's all different types of engravers out there in the market. And they all have different technical capabilities behind it. And then it starts getting into engineering and scientific. I have a blue light and an IR laser. So that only interacts with certain types of materials. For example, I can't cut aluminum or blue acrylic, for example, because the wavelengths of the laser don't interact. Because what you're doing is with the laser is you're actually heating up certain parts and actually having a type of chemical reaction going on. So when you do that, you need to play around with settings, such as how much power you give to it, how many lines that laser is going to go in, even the size of the piece. So one of my laser devices is this big. It's approximately 5 feet across at its full thing, but the bed is about 4. And then I have a smaller lasers, which I'll use on the ornaments. And so it's, once again, it's playing around with the design and playing out the practice piece. And for the ornaments themselves, we have a couple ornament packs here. So here's a tray of ornaments that I made. But I equally went through probably 2 trays about these just to learn the discipline behind it, to come out with polished pieces. So unfortunately, there was a lot of practice and learning as you're going through there, because I did not go to school for this. This is all learning by experience.
Well, that's the best way to learn, they say. So in terms of the carvings for the stone carvings, what type of stone do you use?
So for a lot of the gift stones, I use slate because it's a softer stone where you can actually carve into it. With a laser, I would have to use, if I was using some sort of a marble, it's an even heavier piece. You would have to start using stone drill bits to work into that, and getting into more like wet saws. So having the tools in order to work with that piece. And sometimes what a lot of the craftspeople will do is they'll say, I have this tool and you have that tool. Can I get some hours on your tool and you can get some hours on my tool, and we'll trade if we want to accomplish a certain project. But there's also the costs that associate with having your own tools to do that.
Right.
And
Since
so
you
that's a slightly limiting factor. And I'm sorry I cut you off.
Oh, no. Which it was leading me to my next question. I wanted to dig a little into the logistics. You know, with all this craft work, you need supply. You know, we have wood, you have stone. What is that supply chain for people for this kind of work?
So at the very simplest level, it could be driving down the side of the road and seeing a piece of wood or walking through the woods and collecting stuff and then actually whittling it down for some of my pieces. So what I didn't bring is I'll also make canes. And so that is just something that you can actually carve. So while I brought a lot of the laser things in here, I have a lot of the traditional routers, saws, just pull knives on it to work down wood in the old-fashioned way. I have a history with historical reenacting. So there's a lot of people there. We actually have tools to do woodworking in the old-fashioned way. You know, from the 1930s and prior, before power tools came in there. It's great to have power tools because they can speed things up, but it's also understanding how to do it with the old-fashioned tools is actually fantastic. A lot of the other supply chain is finding a lot of specialty shops. So this wood here is not something that you get from a box store. You'd actually go off to a specialty wood supply place to find that type of milled wood, which you just have to go to those locations because they're the only ones that have it, and poking around and seeing what they have in stock at the moment. Right. And then also looking at it and say, can I afford that raw stock until I can actually turn around and sell it or gift it or whatever it is. Right. So you do get a lot of the, financially you get a lot of things tied up. And I have whole bays in my garage just stacked with wood pieces from floor to ceiling.
And you know, without getting into the specifics of the actual prices, how does this supply chain, quote unquote, how does it influence the pricing of your items?
Yeah, so there's some things. For example, at the moment, two of the pieces that I'm working on is I've actually got what would be a 4-foot diameter logs, and I've cut them down to make tabletops. But I was trying to figure out last night how I'm going to surface the tabletops, and so from a price point, you know, ultimately I would like to sell these pieces. Creating is great, but going broke while creating is kind of tough.
It's kind of why I asked.
So with these tabletops, I really want to dig into them and do a nice pattern on the top, but then you start thinking about what you're going to do with epoxies. And so when you start working with epoxies, even the low-grade epoxies start at $60 per piece, and then the high-grade epoxies start going at $130. So you're talking about a pre-pour or a pre-pourable epoxy without any dyes or whatever, just to put it on there. A gallon jug starts at about 110, 130.
Wow.
So you start thinking about how can I do this without waste, without ruining your piece, and then, you know, what will the market actually tolerate to buy that piece.
Wow. And you've been doing this for years. What has that, are there peak moments when people actually get these gifts or crafts?
I have to say it's truly hit and miss. Okay. And it's kind of that magical. So that board that I talked about at the fair, I had brought it to 5 fairs. And even this board right here was made back in February, and I've brought it to every one of the fairs and it has not sold. But it just kind of takes the right person to see it at the right time to buy that, and so you just kind of have to wait. And in part, when you are making art for somebody, if it's not custom made for them on the spot, saying what do you want, and I'll make it for you, then it's more or less something that's pleased me as the artist to make, and then also pleases the eye of the beholder who would like it.
Yeah, and then one of the final questions I may have for today is, what are some of the misconceptions you know of that people have about crafting like this?
So the toughest part, and it's not just me, it's when you go to anybody who's working with hand art, and you see the price on it, and you kind of say, well, I can go to a box store and buy that for this. For one, you are, that box store is producing that in a factory, and they're just doing it in as much bulk as possible. The artisans, and it's not just me, we are almost kind of doing this more of a labor of love, and then trying to get our money back, as opposed to we're getting rich. So by doing this artwork, this is not going to help me to retire. This is actually a fun job for me, as opposed to a subsistence type of job. But so I'm trying to create, but I'm also trying not to go absolutely broke when I create.
I hear you.
And I'm trying to put smiles on people's faces.
And this is really what art does. Put a smile on people's faces. Just a random thought came to my mind. Have you explored bigger projects like building boats, since you love to be on the water and scuba diving and all that?
Okay, so have I thought about building boats? Yes. Have I explored building boats? Absolutely not. It is simply something that is not within my price point and be able to do. But as a matter of fact, a little backstory, I was on the Fame, which is a 1812 replica sailing ship up in Salem, Massachusetts. It was built in 1972, if I get the year correct, and it is a beautiful boat, and the husband and wife team who run it as a tourist business, they went through, and I applaud them because they did an absolutely beautiful job to build this boat. And it is so beautiful that I even got married on the boat.
Nice.
on a sunset sail. And it was, if anybody happens to do that. So as just a type of random thought is, I know I say no to building a boat, but anybody out there, pursue your dreams. If you want to build a boat, go build a boat, because it's incredibly, and if you can, of course, pay for it or whatever, afford it, or find people to do it, make it happen, because it's such a rewarding feeling. And they are still, since for years now, they've been sailing this vessel, and just absolutely giving joy to people out on the water. The boat was full of people on a cold Sunday afternoon in November, and people were still absolutely just happy to be out on the water in a sailing boat, sails deployed, under sail.
Awesome. Sorry, go on.
I was just wondering how many times I can say sail.
Is there anything we haven't talked about your work that that you would like to tell our viewers?
So the thing is, so when I go to shows, an example, I do build a lot of generic artwork. I have these slates, these boards, and etc. And they don't have anybody's specific name on them. But a lot of the pieces that I do are what I call bespoke, or they'll be personalized for somebody. So what I truly delight is having people call me up and say, I need something made for so-and-so, and I want their name on it. And so that's the beauty about these holiday ornaments. I'll be going to actually a couple of the bookstores in the local area, the Felixology in Maynard, and also Silver Unicorn in Acton. And we'll actually be having an ornament making day, where I will go, and in front of them, they'll say what they want for an ornament. They'll say who they want it made for. They'll choose the ornament, and they'll choose the design and put a name on it. And at the end, it may be saying, Happy Holidays 2025, and so-and-so's name on it. And it will be a personalized bespoke gift for that person. And that's where I really want my business to go, is I really want to make gifts specifically purchased by somebody as a gift to somebody else.
And where can people find you?
So at the moment, I am strictly on Facebook, and also on the local next door neighborhoods.
Okay.
And then I keep it in the local area, and I put on a phone number my email, so people can contact me that way. I do not have a storefront. I work out of my home.
No, that's good as well, because you don't have to commute.
That
The
is
commute
true.
is very short. Then, as we wrap this up, I want to loop us back to the writing. I know there is a book on scuba diving and lobsters, and other books for sailors, I think.
Yeah, can you actually
Yeah. Well,
grab one of the copies?
yeah. So this one is for scuba diver's guide.
Yes.
And then this one is a boater's guide. So why did you feel the need to write these guides for people?
Certainly. So you can hold on to that one. So as you can see, a lot of what I write or do is actually to fill a niche. So even this little business where I'm customizing things, those started off by me not seeing what I wanted to create a gift for a family member or a friend. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do it myself. With the history book, my father was like, we need to write the story of the people in the local area before it's lost in time. And so we wrote that book. I'm a professional scuba diver, so I teach scuba diving. I take people on guided tours. Quite often spend most of the summer diving with people, bringing them out to dive with seals. And that's why I have so many aquatic items, because I'm inspired by what I see underwater. I have students in my scuba diving classes saying, you can go get lobsters? And I'm like, yeah, you can go lobsters. And then they'll say, well, how do you do that? And over the past 20 years, I've repeated myself thousands of times. So finally, a couple of years ago, I sat down and I'm like, look, I'm going to capture all the knowledge into a book. And that was the genesis for this book. And then after that, people were saying, but you can also do it by traps, by vote. And I said, yes, but the laws are different and the rules are different. So I wrote a specialty book for that. This upcoming year, next year, I'll be having a book particularly for the students and for the general public on the native seals of the North Atlantic. Massachusetts Water has 2 resident seals. And then out further north in Canada, we'll have migrants coming down every once in a while, but we have seals up north there, so that's another 3. And then we also have the walrus, which is a pinniped, a type of seal. And so those will actually be captured into the book too. And as I started digging into it, it's great because I started learning far more about seals than I ever thought existed. And I'm always pushing that too, but I'll be very happy with that book.
Well, it's exciting. The work that
Go.
you do is exciting. I mean, your life is all full of beautiful art,
Thank you.
both in life sciences and carving and everything, engraving. But most importantly, thank you for sharing your skills with the community and for blessing people with smiles through art.
Thank you very much.
And for accepting to be a part of this show. Thank you for coming down to ActonTV.
And thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. And to our viewers, I hope you can learn more about his work and reach out to him at... how do people reach out to you?
Certainly. So just find Todd Boothroyd, or actually did not mention this at all. I kind of run under the name Atlanticus Productions.
Okay.
And that can be found on Facebook,
Okay.
as well as on Nextdoor
Okay.
in the local area. And maybe someday I'll actually spin up a website or something like that.
Well, thank you again for
Thank
being
you for
on the show.
having me, Vivian.
And to our viewers, thank you for watching. Till next time.